to lesson 2. In this lesson, we'll be talking about cutting other materials, making stencils and stitching templates, and using sketch pens. Let's get started with the stitching template. So I have the background floral design here from this week's lesson, and I've just eliminated part of the flowers because I won't need that for my project. And I'm just going to show you 2 different ways that you can easily create a perforated line to use in order to hand stitch those floral elements. So the first way is in your cut settings window, and that's that little tiny blade here in the upper right corner. If you choose the perforated edge, you'll see that you get the red lines turn into red dashed lines, and everywhere there's a red dashed line is where your silhouette is going to cut. So that's the very first, most simple way. The second way is in the line style window. Now you can also choose a perforated line here, and then in the cut settings window you choose cutting edge. But you can see that the dashes for here are slightly smaller together. There's also an option for a wider dash, which I prefer when doing hand stitching because I can get a bit of a wider stitch here. And all you need to do at this point is send it to your silhouette and it will cut out those perforated lines. Now to create a stencil, I'm going to use that same flower image. And the trick with doing stencils is knowing what you want to have cut out and what you want to remain on the stencil material. So in this case, I want to have the whole page be cut out of the stencil material so that the top portion is going to be protected by the stencil, whereas the bottom portion will be cut out in the floral shapes. That way, if I want to use some spray mist, I'm not going to get the top of my page dirty with any overspray. It's only going to allow me to spray in that bottom part. So I just created a square there, the size of my page. I made it 11.5 inches square, and I just shrunk down the floral design there to 11.25, so it's slightly inside. And I'm choosing to make it a compound path. If you remember from Silhouette 101, you just can right-click and choose Make Compound Path, and that takes all the images there and creates it into one shape, for lack of a better term. If you fill this in with black, just so you can get the idea, everything in black is what's going to be the stencil material, and everything that's left in white is going to be what's cut out and what you'll actually either spray or paint into that empty space. And at this point, you just want to send it to your silhouette. Now, before you do that, you'll want to load it into your machine. To do so, you just lift this blue clip down, and you need to make sure that this white gripper handle is accurately set up so that it will hold your material in place. To do that, you need to firmly roll that off the silver bar. There's some notches, and you just want to roll it to the next size down, in this case with the stencil material, and turn it until it clips in. Then you should be able to load it in your machine just like you would a silhouette mat. You want to line it up here on the left with that little groove in the front of the machine, and ensuring the blue bar is back in place, you choose Load Cutting Mat on the front of your machine, and you'll see that because you've now set those white guidelines, it's going to grab your material and bring it into place. Now you can go ahead and cut that stencil by choosing the Cut Settings window again, choosing Stencil Material in this case. If you were going to cut vinyl, you would do the same thing by moving the yellow or the white bar, and then you would choose the vinyl material, and then you would go ahead and cut that out. And as you can see, you don't need to have it on a mat. You can leave it just like it is, rolled up, and it will go ahead and it's going to cut out. You can see it's cutting out my flowers here so that I can use that later on to do a little bit of misting on my page. Now let's talk a little bit about sketch pens. Sketch pens are really, really fun, and there's several different things you can do with them. I'm just going to leave this here outlined and show you in the sketch window, which is the 5th little icon here in the middle, that there are several different options. You can choose different fills and different lines. So in the top area is the edges, so different options for how you want to use around the edge of your design. And in the middle, you can see there's several different ways the sketch pen can actually sketch right inside, in this case, a word. Obviously, you could do this in a shape, like a circle as well. So you can, in various ways, you can mix these together. I really like the charcoal effect. I think it's really fun, and I do use the plain effect a lot of the time. You can also customize how you want the inside of that design to look. So if you choose something like the cross hatch or the diamond hatch, for example, you can just, in the advanced options here, you can choose the way the fill looks. So You can see here you can adjust it to be a scribble or more of a plain line. You can choose a bit of a zigzag, and then there's some spacing options, even the angle here of the design that the pen will sketch. So you're basically telling the machine how you want the lines to be drawn inside of whatever image you're filling with the sketch pen. It's really, really fun, and I love that you can customize virtually any shape you want. So you can go as crazy or as simple as you want. Just kind of fooling around and playing with it. Like I said, there's lots of different ways you can decide to fill in your line. I prefer to leave it, just have a sketched line, and then I can do some watercolor on the inside of the design. I think it looks really fun, and the sketch pens don't really mess with the water very much. So now you want to go ahead and load the sketch pen into your machine by unlocking the ratchet blade and just simply popping that off and adding the sketch pen right back inside and turning that blue clip in place. Once you have that blue clip in place, you can go ahead, load your mat in, and go ahead and cut your design. I'm just going to cut this one here, this word today, just with an outside line, and then I'm ready to go and have it sketch out onto my project. And you can see it works pretty quick. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It just will line up and just start cutting. And you can actually cut around the edge of your design if you do a bit of an offset to your word or to your shape. So let's take a look at the sketches for this week. We have this sketch here, and in this case I decided to cut a lot of the flowers in the lesson and from the bonus cut files. And I cut out that word today and used it for my title. I did use the sketch pen and I colored in with watercolor paint. For the second sketch, I used the bottom portion and the heart background cut file. You can see I used the stitching template option, and I hand stitched in all those hearts and added more watercolor to this one as well. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you again for lesson 3.